Leadership has changed quite dramatically over the last decade, particularly in the last 2-3 years. As you can imagine, 2020 was a watershed year because of the pandemic, and things have revolutionized since then. You cannot imagine that some organizations would move into totally remote. Due to the pandemic, things have changed. A lot of operations now are done remotely, virtually. One of the key leadership revolution that has happened over the last 2-3 years is you need to be a leader now virtually. There's a difference between a virtual leader and a leader in the virtual world. Communication has always been a number one priority, number one strategic importance in any leadership. However, now it becomes even more important, simply because the advent of technology, the overriding importance of managing people and talent across borders, across culture, and also across way of working. This has put a lot more pressure in terms of ensuring that leaders become more resilient, able to rebound, able to understand the different nuances of the different areas that they have to manage, and most important, the different culture that they need to manage. That's probably the second part. The third part obviously is AI. Right? You can't get away from artificial intelligence. Now that information is a lot more democratized. Previously, leadership is always defined as people or individuals who have control over information. You become a leader because you know more. Now, that's no longer the case, because everyone knows almost everything instantly, because information is so democratized. The challenge now is to be able to prioritize, to synthesize those information, and therefore come up with the insights and then make the necessary decisions in a timely manner. These are all new challenges for leaders going forward. And finally, to me, the greatest trait, the greatest prerogative, the greatest, what I would say, imperative for any leader is character. You can have the best technology, you can have the best capability, you are agile, you are a good communicator. However, what makes you thick as a leader is not your capability, it's not your capacity. It is not even your recognition or how many awards you have. It is who you are as a person, which comes down to courage, to determination, to perseverance, to honesty, to integrity, which I can sum up in one word: character. It's a big question. Organizational effectiveness is not just about culture. Organizational effectiveness is about a combination of culture, processes, systems, way of working, how do we deal with customers, CX, etc. So, in the context of organizational effectiveness in the bank, as I mentioned before, Maybank is incumbent upon Maybank. Maybank has a responsibility, a duty to be leading in all these spaces, because we are the shining beacon of Malaysian corporate, because we are the largest bank. Not only that, we are also the largest organization in Malaysia. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to lead in all these spaces. Now, from a context of organizational effectiveness, both from a process, systems, and culture perspective, from systems and processes, those need to be encapsulated in the design of the organization that drives high performance. This includes having the right performance management in place. Number two, having the right people in the right boxes, that's talent management, and then having the right structure to enable the strategy. Now, we have our M25 Plus strategy, which is going to culminate in 2025, and then we are in the midst of designing and crafting for 2030. We have not decided on the name yet, but once it is in place, that will then have a journey that we will traverse from 2025 onwards to 2030. Now, all this requires a convergence of the right structure, the right people, the right capability, the right mindset. And I can call all this the right culture to drive effectiveness of the entire organization. Taking on the cue from what I mentioned earlier, so I have 3 C's for any leaders to be an effective leader. Number 1 is called capability. You need to build capabilities. Capabilities can include, agility, includes communication, includes adaptability, includes navigating complexity, includes strategic visioning, building relationships. All those, what I call capability. How do you build them? You build them through training, you get mentoring, you get coaching, you get people to guide and so on, and Obviously, you learn it on your own through certification, etc., etc. Capability. The second piece is what I call capacity. You need to build capacity. What I mean by capacity is, if you look at the tumbler here, this is maybe a 500 milliliter tumbler. You need to build, and you want to build you to a bigger tumbler. That's called building capacity. And what is the key ingredient of building capacity is having ambition. I notice that a lot of younger people nowadays, number one, they don't think enough about their purpose. They don't think about enough about who they want to be, what they want to be, and it's just a flow. Just go with the flow. Unfortunately, this does not build capacity very much, because then when you don't have a purpose, you don't have an objective, it's very difficult for you to aim, and therefore then put in the right plans for you to get there. That's number two. Number three is character. I've mentioned this before. Character is what makes you who you are. And can you build character? Absolutely. Is it something that you already inherited from your parents, or from your background, or from your history? Yes. However, we can change our history. We can change our future. Our history defines why we are here. It doesn't define why we should be who we are in the future, because we have the chance to do it. Now, practical tips. Probably I give you a few. If you go to an interview, or you are slated for promotion, and what do you think you have to say? As a matter of fact, you don't have to say anything. First thing is, you need to bring energy to the table, because that's one thing that is extremely difficult. You can learn all the capability. You can be courageous as well. You also have the capacity, you have ambition, right, and aspiration. But you do not project the kind of energy. And that energy comes from two things. That energy comes from confidence and competence. When you are confident and you have the competency, therefore you bring the energy across, because you truly believe. And with the right purpose, you would have the right drive to ensure that you are able to then communicate what you're going to communicate. Energy is the first one. Secondly is your willingness to change, which is curiosity. Curiosity tells you that you are always inquisitive, always want to learn more. And that's why your desire to grow is there. So if I have only two things to tell you, is bring energy to the table and always be curious. Always be curious, therefore you continue to learn and you continue to grow. I believe leaders should all believe in fairy tales and in dragons. More importantly, those dragons can be slayed and they can be killed. And as leaders, it is our job to guide, to inspire, and make people believe fairy tales are dreams that we can achieve, and dragons are difficulties and challenges that we can overcome. See you in next.